Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith. And man on the board there's Kendrick Williams. Looking to the top of the pops, see what's happening at the top of the pops. And the top of the pops is kind of a weird headline that I have no choice but to read. Huh?
Why is it weird?
Well, it's just that you don't see this word often. Syphilis rate soars. You don't see the big syphil often. I don't know the last time I saw that word anywhere.
What are the symptoms of syphilis? Let me see.
You could look it up. I think it's a lot of
Let's see here.
Yeah, stuff.
It didn't say that in the article?
I haven't gotten to that, but they're just quoting numbers.
What's the numbers now?
Well, these are like between 2014 and 2018, 2,600 individuals tested positive.
Wow.
For the big SIF. That's an average of about. Let's do the number. In 2014 there were 439 cases, and in 2018 there were 714. So it's going in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm. It says.
Okay.
Let me see here.
I wonder how much, the fact that people can be treated for AIDS, right? That it's AIDS before was, essentially was a death sentence, right? And now you can be treated for it. And I'm wondering how much of the people's relaxation on using, because you see a lot of, which you don't see, and I could be wrong, but I won't even say it. I don't know what the numbers are, for instance, for childbirth, like out of wedlock or casual childbirth, which means that people aren't using, it was an accident type of childbirth, because that means people aren't using condoms. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because, I gotta have to read more of this story, but.
Let me tell you what the symptoms are. So it says.
Yeah, it doesn't sound, I don't think it's sexy, right?
It's not, well, I shouldn't say it's not so
bad. I think you can become paralyzed and stuff like that, right?
Well, it says swollen lymph nodes.
Yeah.
Patchy hair loss.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems a bit superficial, but headaches, sore throat, fever, muscle aches. Now, this is the one. Oral, anal, and genital wart-like sores.
Yeah, that's what you need. Mm-hmm.
A non-itchy rash that starts on the trunk and then spreads to the entire body, including the palms of the hands. That's like right here.
Oh, okay.
Like your chest
torso.
area, your torso area. And soles of the feet, yeah. But that oral, anal, and genital wart-like sores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zing, zing, zuma. Who got the keys to Mazuma? So, scary stuff. Although Dr. Sand says it's not surprising, given when you have a look at the terms of HIV infections, et cetera, and other transmission. I think that for many, many years, what has happened is because of AIDS, you didn't hear about these other diseases.
Yes, you did.
Well, not to the extent that, they weren't death threats.
They're not.
You can get treated with penicillin, I think, or some kind of antibiotic.
Yeah, penicillin. Intramuscular injection.
Yeah. So, I remember when I was growing up, you always hear people talking about they're going to go get some antibiotic.
What's the clap?
The clap.
What's that?
Is the clap syphilis?
I don't know.
Look up the clap. Say the clap.
I've always
Siri, what's the
people
clap?
say so-and-so had the clap, right? But I don't know what the clap was. Let me see. What is the clap? Maybe it is.
Why isn't this working?
I don't know.
I don't have my Wi-Fi on, I don't think.
Oh, it's gonorrhea.
Okay.
Bacterial infection.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the oldest known STDs.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, a yellowish discharge from the penis. All right.
Well, and women can get gonorrhea, right?
Of course.
So, I guess they don't go with the. Anyway, it's all very gross.
Isn't it?
It's not. It's. How's your sandwich?
It's delicious.
Yeah. Okay.
And it has no yellow
you got some mustard
over
on
here.
there, right?
No, there's no mustard here. This. I don't even know if this has mayo.
Why isn't my Siri working? Isn't you're supposed to hit it once and then it should work? No? You have an iPhone?
I don't. I have an Android.
Oh.
So I have to say Google and ask the
Siri,
questions.
I'm supposed to just be able to hit that once and Siri must be down it.
Siri says
Sorry,
she's coming up on the mountain, she ain't on your run.
Sorry, must see. Oh, Siri, what's the clap?
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, well then you don't. Siri, what's a nickname for gonorrhea? Oh, I didn't hear it. Siri, what's another name for gonorrhea?
Synonyms of gonorrhea are clap and gonorrhea.
There you go. I didn't answer that. You don't need a Siri.
Siri, I just wanted to see if Siri up to date.
I didn't answer that.
By the way, Siri answers all kinds of things. You know what I found on Alexa? It's Alexa or Alexis? Alexa? Alexa the other day was Joe Spence. I just tried it. I said, Alexa played Joe Spence. Alexa played George Simonette. And it played it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Nice. So anyway, that's up. Cooper. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to come up with a nickname for Cooper. Well, I have a nickname for him. Because it's I Chester. I says, listen, man, I, for one, won't be bullied.
I absolutely so respect him for that and appreciate him saying that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I appreciate it. Because
I just wonder what, my man was thinking about, like, when he say what's going to happen.
Who, Les?
Les. Because, the only thing that could happen is dissension, right? It isn't going to be beneficial to anyone. Mm-hmm.
I mean, if and I've wrote about this, but if the PLP is really serious in projecting this image of a fresh start and moving in a new direction, then it can't allow itself to be bullied by former candidates. Former candidates or anybody who's currently in the party. I mean, it doesn't matter. Just don't allow it. When
the FNM lost in 2012, a poll was taken, which is what was not widely dispersed because, when a poll is taken by someone who benefits from the poll, it's seen as serving, right? But a poll was taken, and I remember hearing reference from Dr. Minnis on it many times, that showed that basically one thing that the people wanted was for none of the previous losing MPs to run. That was never published because it seemed self-serving. So it's very difficult to publish. Oh, I did a poll, or Rogan did a poll, and it showed that she was the best blogger. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like I've been hearing about this poll with the PLP. It says the PLP that the FNM is 70%, and they may be, but it's very difficult for you to be the poll, and you're not saying who did the poll.
Right.
Who did the poll? How many people were taken? What was the sample size? What was the,
Right. I mean, and even to Leslie's point, right? I do understand where he's coming from, where he says you have to balance experience with fresh candidates. He's right about that. Everybody just can't be new. The FNM itself did that when it released its slate of candidates. You have to have some old candidates, but be careful about the type of candidates.
Well, for one, if you look at if I remember correctly, and I'm trying to go through my mind, the old candidates that I remember that ran were Desmond Bannister, who I don't think ran in 2012. It's hard for me to think of other, obviously Dion folks and Paul Beth, they didn't run.
They didn't run this, and they were appointed.
Yeah. So they didn't run.
So what I'm saying is, you could.
So you can balance it with appointed people.
Appoint some folks
so there weren't a lot of people who ran who were in the old regime. Peter Turnquest, but he had won his seat. These were the people who ran were the people who had won their seats, correct? I think in the 2017 election
for the
FNM.
For the FNM side.
Yeah.
The people who what? What are you asking me?
The old candidates were the people who had seats. Renwood Wells, Peter Turnquest. Those people who ran in that slate were people who were actually in the House, not people who had lost their seats. Mm-hmm. And so that was, as I said, the only other person I can recall in my mind who ran who was an old candidate but wasn't in the previous government was Desmond Bannister.
I see
Brent Simonette, but he wasn't in the House. No, he wasn't in the House. No, he was in the House. No, who had Montague before? No, Chippy. Hubert Chipman.
Yeah. No.
We haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah, I guess they
Yeah.
ain't low in Bimini. Can't blame them. You step off the scene.
A couple of other things. So it's and it's good that I guess people like I is stepping up and saying those things.
You know that there's going to be backlash from certain factions.
Yeah,
but
well,
that comes
I ain't
with
from
that
that
comes
crew.
that comes with the territory. No, I'm just saying that's what happens. But you got to be strong in the face of that and be like, no, well, you know what, be mad, but this ain't happening.
Well, one of the things I always would hear people say, and I've heard politicians on the government side say it too, and I don't know them like that. I don't know them like that. In other words, I wasn't the regimes.
Mm-hmm.
He's brand new, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he ain't know, Leslie and them like that. You know what I'm saying?
He don't have personal. He don't know it one-on-one, but I mean he knows because other people in the party be saying.
I know that, but I'm just saying he don't. It's like he ain't got that kind of relationship, like that. Like say Christie, you know what I'm saying? That's what also was a problem with Obama. Obama really didn't know them people like that. I do what I want to do. So it can backfire as well. If you don't, because it's all a clique. It's a big clique. You know that, right? And when you go into, you see those stalwart councillors, those weren't selected by I.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They were selected by some loyalists from other people. It can take a while for I and them to get their people in. And I don't know what I think when you're a stalwart council, I think that's until death do you part, right?
Yeah, I think that's like for life.
I don't think they have no term.
I think you have people in there for hundreds of years.
I wonder if you can disappoint them.
I'm sure you can.
But then that'll be another problem.
Of course. But you can.
I'm gonna be honest with you, and this I'm going blanket. You see some people in those positions who you basically are saying you're going to be the chooser of my leader, right? And I don't know if I want them to be the chooser of Mike and Neps.
Okay.
But they're appointed because they're loyal to certain people.
Yeah.
So I see where the government is outlining measures to protect conch.
I think they're going to be doing some polling or
conch
surveys
season,
or
yeah.
whatever to canvass views from the public. Mm-hmm.
Well, they're saying that they're going to take measures to conserve conch, including potentially restricting harvesting conch by visitors. Which, I mean, how much is that? Like 10? I don't know how much people that is. We believe should not be harvested by visitors in Bahamas. And you see, my young daughter, she listened to some of the shows we've been doing, and we talked. Well, just recently, that Mr. Pintard also talked about banning shark feeding, and she was like, "Well, good. How do you do that in Mayaguana?" You know what I mean? I mean, that's you can say it.
You got to be realistic about.
You can say it, but
Yeah.
if there's a town, what they got in Mayaguana? I don't know the name of the town. What's the name of the town down there?
I don't
Matthew?
know. Huh?
That's
What you
Inagua.
thinking?
Huh?
No, Matthew's in
Inagua.
In Agua.
You
Yeah,
have
I
to
don't
look
know.
up the town now because
Yeah, I don't know
they
where
got to
it's
have a
in
town. Okay, everyone have a town or a bite or something, or a bay. Okay, all right.
You ain't
A
lying.
bite, a bay, a town, or a hill.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone decides, you know what, we don't have no money down here, and we got some sharks. What is it?
Abram Bay.
Abram Bay.
I just go there.
Bay. It's a bay.
You ain't lying.
Okay.
Pirates Well.
Yeah. Well, I know about well.
Betsy Bay.
Betsy Bay.
There you
But
go.
you got to have a bay, a hill, a bite,
Right. You ain't lie. You ain't lie.
or a key. That one's
There
key.
you go.
Okay. Mangrove key.
That's funny.
Okay. And you can have a key that's even on land. Okay. Like we think a key is a separate little islet, but no, you can have a key, like Lifer Key. Okay. But yeah. So you hope. And the sad part about this conch thing, by the way, is the conchs aren't in Nassau, right? So the policing of it has to be outside of Nassau, right? So you're in a little boat. You came over from Florida. You're doing a little boating. You dive down. You pick up 2-3 conch to do a little salad. Who's policing that?
Yeah.
Okay. I think what we really need to have is a conch season, but that'll panic people big time. So
We don't already
But
have
we
a
have a
conch
lobster season. But let me
We
tell
don't
you.
have a conch season?
No, yeah, we have a conch season every damn day. Okay?
Open season.
EDD. Okay?
I'm sure if we don't have it, people have been calling for a conch
They've
season.
been calling.
They've
Because
been
just
calling.
recently we've been talking about the conch problem. But what'll happen is they'll go and they'll get all the conch and
Oh.
freeze them up.
Yeah.
Because listen, they have a lobster season. I never see no shortage of lobster.
I've been to places where they say they don't have them.
Oh, okay.
I've been to several restaurants where they'll say no, we're out.
But you could get something.
And I don't want that with too frozen.
So they're doing that. And by the way, crawfish season open today.
August 1st. Today's August 1st.
It's amazing because I have a friend who dives, who crawfishes and spearfishes, I should say, and it amazes me how fast that comes around. So the time is flying by.
It is. I have to say happy birthday to my friend Alfonso Parker. Hey, Fonzie, happy birthday. Every year I always hit him up days afterwards. I keep forgetting the birthday, and then at least I remember today. So happy birthday, Fonzie.
Yeah, Fonzie.
And this is my month.
Fonzarella.
This is the best month of the year.
He anything the happy days?
Yeah, he is.
Okay,
The
good.
Fonz. We got to take a break.
We'll take a break.
We'll be back.
Good evening. And this was Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith. Our guest this afternoon is going to be Stan Burnside, who did his last thing yesterday, right?
Political cartoon.
So,
I'm sad to see it go.
yeah,
I love Stan. Sideburns.
But the one thing they did, the schools would be ready. Apparently, I don't know when school is going to open up, but they got to do some repairs to these schools. It's kind of late. I don't know when you start that stuff, but we'll have Jeff on at some point. We'll talk about it. It just seems kind of bizarre to, how come everything isn't lined up so the day school
closes, you get to work on
people are
on the work.
But let me tell you why. And I've been meaning to get this off my chest, and I'm gonna do it gradually because I want to make sure that I'm not doing anything incorrectly. The process, okay, of getting things, it's all hat, but the process of getting things done. Now, I'm going to make just a bet that what happened was, it sits on someone's desk, these documents, these tender documents, right? Well, I see so and so signature on that or this and that, and it just never gets done. It never gets done. I cannot imagine the frustration of people who are in the system who want to see things done, but for whatever reason that you cannot explain, it can't happen. Now, I'm going to make a real, this can be big. This is a big one. The Turks and Caicos, and I'm going to talk to Mr. Roll about this. In the Turks and Caicos, they hire permanent secretaries on a 5-year term based on the political term. In fact, I understand, I don't know who the gentleman is, but I'd like to find out, and maybe we can get him on the show, that there's a Bahamian who's down in Turks and Caicos as a permanent secretary. No. And the beautiful part about that is this. We have this history of taking permanent secretaries from one department for the other. So today you're in charge of, say, social services, and I'm just being generic. And then tomorrow, you're in charge of works. Oh, so all of a sudden, engineering is your forte. Okay? That can't be right. So, you know what? It seems to me that, you want to adequately compensate people. Okay. You put people on 5-year contract. There's no benefits, right? There's no, pension and things like that. You pay them a decent salary, and you find a person who's an expert in that field, and also someone who is aligned with you politically, to carry out your political directives, as opposed to someone who just lounging around. Okay? Because we have to start at the top in terms of the blame. Okay? The CEO of each government ministry is the permanent secretary. Okay? I will make you a bet, Rogan Smith. Name me 5.
I don't know. We've done this. We've gone through this exercise before, and I won't know.
Okay.
We've been through this. You name 5.
I can name 5.
You deal with these people every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's not fair for me to name 5. But that's the thing. So the question is, who's responsible for making sure things get done? And who has the capacity? It's a capacity issue as well. But you wonder why you see things like, well, people didn't get paid on time. I get paid every week, man. You know, are you going to go through weeks and weeks and weeks without getting paid? Or let's say you have a contract that you say, you know, you're a contract worker, right? And you're supposed to get paid weekly.
That is, you know,
Okay.
It's so funny that you're saying this. Sorry to cut you, but that is a friend of mine is going this very same issue, where she's supposed to be paid and she hasn't been paid.
You're on a say a 6-month or a year-long contract, and you 5 months down the road and you get your first check yet?
And they're saying somebody has to sign something.
Hold on.
Yeah, you're right. It's foolishness.
How did you get on the job without that process being handled in the first week, if not the first day?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, what is your expectation of me when you do that? Well, there's only two
When you're not
things.
being paid?
There's only two types of people who can deal with that. One, people who ain't doing nothing. So in other words, they ain't really doing nothing.
I disagree with you.
No, I'm saying there's two types of people. One, people who ain't doing nothing. In other words, they get the contract, but they ain't really working anyway.
I say I disagree because
Right.
I'll tell you why. Because even though they ain't doing nothing, they still want their money. They still want their
Still
money.
want their money, but the people who I think who may be the most quiet, there are two types of people. There's the quiet people and the loud people. If you were working your butt off.
Yeah, you definitely want your money. But it don't always work that way.
Okay. Well, I can tell you. Well, I know
Come
people
down
will
to
say, I want my
personality.
money. I know. People like to say, I want my money.
Come
You
down
know?
to personality. Because some people work their butts off and then work their butt off and then they still will be quiet like, oh, we ain't get paid yet or boom, 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 boom.
Well, that's the people I'm talking about. The people who work their butts off don't make the noise.
Oh, and some do make noise.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it
it's just a
comes down to
crapshoot, I guess. Yeah,
personality.
yeah. Because
Comes
I
down
can
to
tell you one
personality.
thing, my brother. I mean, I guess what they prey on, and this is the sad part, and let me throw this out there for all the government employees who are driving and now will detest me. I would be there for about a week to 2 after the first week is due.
Right.
Okay?
You'd
It
say
shows
you're-
desperation where people, I mean, I say where you need the job, right? I'm not talking about you're a desperate person, but where you need the job desperately to pay bills, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just say I quit, because if you quit, well, you ain't got nothing. So you take it. It's a balance between
So
I have no other option. Because do they have another option? I don't know.
I don't know. It costs money to go to work every single day.
Well, no, yeah, but do you have an option? Like if you know that you have say $4,000 owed to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you have another 5,000 that could be coming, and you have no option in terms of another revenue stream. Do you quit and lose the other 5,000? I mean, it's you're really, it's like it's like a shakedown. That's what it is. You ain't happy with how the things is? Oh, okay. Well, listen, don't bother to come back then.
What's the longest? Kendrick, you can answer this too. What's the longest you'd stay on a job without getting paid? You have money coming to you, but what's the longest?
Well, I'm going
Let's just say-
to say there's 2 steps I will take. A month.
Wow, that's long.
Yeah, I mean, I get paid monthly now.
Oh, you get paid monthly.
Yeah, I mean, not in that job, but in certain jobs, I get. There are people who get paid monthly. I mean, most government people I think get paid monthly.
No, so I'm saying, let's just say this Friday, you would have been waiting.
For the month?
Tomorrow's Friday? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just say that tomorrow is Friday, and you would have been waiting for a whole month to get paid,
Well,
and
let's
you
assume
don't
that
get
my
paid.
month, right? So, in other words, my monthly check is due Friday, and I didn't get paid.
And you don't get
Oh
paid.
no, I'm not going to panic then, because I'm going to go because I know it got to be a slip up. So I will then go for maybe a week or 2 to get the slip up straightened out. But when we get into
But if you're
it's
going down
the
the second month,
month,
and you still haven't been paid.
well, everyone's going to know.
Well, first of all, I ain't going into the second month.
And the bottom line is, I'm going to say until I get my money. Well, I'm going to be, Well, and the other
Are you
option
gonna
is,
come?
well, the other option is this. Well, I might come, but don't expect me to be there. Nothing.
So Atlantis has a crisis, and you're the point man.
Nothing.
How are you gonna get? You might as well don't show up.
Listen, let's put it this way: if Atlantis was in a position where they couldn't pay me, they ain't paying no one. Okay? It's not like they're paying just not me. It doesn't work like that. Okay?
Well,
It'd have to be a global glitch.
No, and
a GG.
they say, listen, the people at the top can wait because the folks at the bottom they
No,
really
I
need
can't
that
wait.
money.
I can't wait like
Kendrick, what you doing? Don't lie. 3 weeks is the longest.
no.
If you're getting paid a month,
Or I can need
monthly,
some kind of like bonus
weekly.
or something. So it gonna have to be some little something, or you got to you got to pay some things for me or something.
When I used to work in environments,
Uh-huh.
if there was any glitch, I probably was one of the first people to say, "What's going on here?"
Yeah, I could deal with a glitch. Okay, a glitch can happen. Like, your money's supposed to go to the bank, right? You could have a system, and that's why I say, it's like when the lights go off, right? You always check to see if the other people's light go off.
Make sure you're in the BP
Because
early and cut yours off.
when your light off on your own, that's a problem.
You.
Okay, because
There's a
for them
fault under your
to
house.
come to you is a big deal.
There's a fault.
So
under
when
your
I see like everyone off, I can breathe a sigh of relief.
You're like, oh,
Okay,
that's the
well, they
area.
must have got a pull and switch in the area. Okay, but it was just you. Okay, so if you see where you go to work, and you say to them, Barry May, that's her name, Barry May, or you're just doing casual. Boy, that's funny. Hey, how we didn't get paid yesterday? Eh? And Barry May say, you didn't get paid?
I've seen.
I said, no, I didn't get paid. For no one got paid. Well, I get paid.
Did
Kendrick, you get paid? Yeah.
Bro, let me tell you something.
Then I get that accounts.
Yeah, see, that's you. That's Ed Fields, right? That's Rogan Smith. That's probably Kendrick Williams. I have worked with people who will know others have been paid. They haven't been paid, and they're like, they're probably going to resolve it.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Can you ask those people
Probably.
to come by me? Come by me.
Probably.
slap them.
Exactly.
Because
Because
once
you've
again,
jostled
if Barry May didn't get paid and Ken didn't get paid, I'm just
That's
going to
still a problem.
assume it's a problem, but I'm going to assume it's a global glitch that wasn't targeted to me.
But
Okay.
Rogan and Kendrick damn sure can't get paid, and you got paid, and you ain't get paid.
All I know is this, and this is a universal place in all business. I get the accounts. Okay? No matter where you go, no matter where you work, if only 4 people work there,
Yeah.
somebody charge your accounts. And that's where it can be. We can take a break. Stan Burns will be joining us shortly. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith. And our guest in a few minutes is going to be Stan the Man Burnside. And so you were saying something about the debates.
Yeah, so I didn't watch the debates last night. I was working, but I've been seeing all these different clips, of course, that came up from the debate. What's your friend's name? Former Vice President Joe Biden. Oh gosh, I think he just needs to
Well, he's going to win anyway, so it
I don't
doesn't
think
matter.
he is.
Okay,
I think he's abysmal. His performance.
Yeah.
I think Kamala Harris is just like
well, she's not
destroying
going to
him.
win, so.
Well, that's fine. But anyway, so Tulsi Gabbard, who is the rep from Hawaii, was taking her to task last night over her record, criminal prosecution's record, and it was beautiful, to be honest with you.
Because she had some issues with what she did with letting people off, right?
No, she was allowing people to be locked up for like marijuana usage, and then
Who,
when she
Harris?
that's correct.
Uh-huh.
And so anyway, I have a clip.
And there were some other issues she had
There's a lot
too,
of issues.
where she was.
Death penalty.
Well, also there were people who I don't know, whatever she gave light sentences to for things that she accused other people of. She was doing similar things,
yeah,
right?
precisely.
She was a hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I'll let people hear it in its
Yeah,
entirety.
uh-huh.
But I thought that Tulsi did a great job last
Yeah.
night. But anyway,
And Tulsi's not going to win. Tulsi is
she's not.
She's running, right?
Yes, she is, but she's not polling high. But you never know how these things go. After performances, things could change. I want to hear it too, Ken. You can turn it up.
Took issue.
No, what always kills me about all of these people. This is why, I always say, you've heard me say this before. If you want to run for president of the United States, if you want to be in the FBI, if you want to be in the CIA, where you have to have these security
Extensive,
clearances and all that
yeah.
kind of stuff, please make that decision at 4 years old.
You got to make sure you are perfect when you're heading into these things.
Because and even if you're not perfect, right?
Be perfect.
Just come in and say, let me tell you what I did.
Yeah.
And then you can decide on
Yeah.
whether or not I can apply for this
Yeah.
position. But don't go and
Trying to
you know what?
defend the record.
Maybe they won't see the tape.
Because they will.
Or maybe someone isn't going to remember. They have all the tapes.
This is what they do.
If you come to Nassau, we might not have the tape.
Yeah.
Because they're inside in the building that get
Remember Jerome Davis
west.
sitting on the
The hurricane in it. Okay? So you can't, if you want to run in Nassau, yeah, we can do that because
Yeah.
we might completely forget and we ain't got the tapes.
We ain't have the tapes to even prove it.
Okay?
But in the States, they got it.
have the tapes.
Yeah.
One person out of 300 million, at least one person have the tape.
She couldn't defend it.
So, and so like I say, listen, but it doesn't, here's what I say if people, let me say it to you. I'm going to say it to you. At one point, you were against certain rights for certain individuals, or you had reservations. But you know what the answer is? I've evolved. People can change.
Mm-hmm.
You let me.
You're talking about same-sex
gay rights,
marriage?
right? Yeah.
Not gay rights.
Well,
It was
same-sex marriage. Or let me get more even personal. You told me, I think you said on the air that in the first referendum,
yes.
you voted against the referendum, okay? But subsequently, because of personal realities, okay, which I can never understand why people who don't see the possibility of the reality coming forward,
Yeah,
right? That's why I always tell you about how people say if they get the 89 billion, they wouldn't do that. No, but when you get it, all of a sudden your mind changed.
Yeah.
That it's rather than lie about it or pretend you didn't do it, just simply say, I've evolved. I've changed my approach to it. Boom. That's the end of that discussion.
Except in her case, you can't. I don't know how much of an evolution it can be when you're
talking
about
deliberately blocking
people.
things.
Yeah.
But if, like, say, for instance, blocking people up for marijuana, you might have had a view toward marijuana then, right? But no, you can't get away with deliberately blocking evidence. Now,
And
she
you can't
probably
have a view about marijuana and saying you want people locked up and you're smoking it yourself.
No, that's
You
hypocritical.
certainly- that's
No.
hypocritical.
Now, one of the things, the other thing is you can't, I mean, there is fine lines when saying, well, I didn't block the evidence because I wanted the person to die, but because I thought that the evidence should not have been, that was, whatever, they come up with terms. But the main thing is to admit you were wrong and move forward because you know what? By holding fast.
Yeah, you just can make yourself look silly.
See, like
hammer you
like Donald Trump
over
to
the head
me,
with it.
I can't reconcile him because simply this. I love the guy. He's a terrific guy. He's a terrific guy.
Yeah, that's his word.
He likes he likes the younger girls.
Or there are good people on both sides.
Okay, and then a week later say, really never liked the guy. Okay,
He's a loser.
I'm not a fan of his. I'm not a fan of his.
Which is it?
Just say, back then I thought he was an okay guy.
Yeah.
I found out some things.
Some things that really just turned my stomach.
Yeah. But like I never, because you did, and it's on tape that you did.
No, never said it.
Okay, so this is what I can't understand, how these people who enter the fray,
Hold it fast.
that you took a picture of your Willie. Okay, and it's so funny because the guy's name is Wiener.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you remember your boy,
Yes,
Anthony Wiener?
Wiener, I do.
And then you so this is such a big thing for you. Even after they catch you, you're still doing it. Okay, so just say, you know what? Listen, one of the things I get off on, man, is taking pictures of Wiener. And then let the people decide whether if you watch this movie Billions, you'll see what I mean about that. This thing.
I don't think people have to be perfect. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find someone who is absolutely perfect coming into the political
Unless
fray,
they're
right?
four.
Unless they're, pardon me,
4
years old, right? But I think where they can get away again is just what you said, just being upfront about everything. So if I were entering politics, I would without someone
Just
even
write a
prompting.
list.
Without
Just
somebody even
a list,
prompting,
yeah.
I'd go on a media tour.
I
and just
smoked
say what I have to
about
say.
18 to 15,000 pounds of dope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was then.
That was then. I down to
cleaned up
10.
my act.
No,
I should do just gone down. I was there. I cleaned up my act.
Yeah, I cleared my act. I down to 14 pounds. Okay. But
Somebody can vote for you.
Yeah, no, you know what I'm saying?
Be honest,
because
I
you're going to get
suppose.
caught out. You're going to get caught. Or don't run. Because first of all, depending on the level of the path, you don't want to drag your family through that.
Yeah.
I mean, I say to myself, at the end of the day, I really care about my name and my reputation, okay? And so whatever I do, I want to make sure that at the end of the day, that that whatever I do, that my family and my friends, people who I care about, will not be disappointed in me. Not like me, or people don't like me, but not feel disappointment. And that I will not do something that they cannot walk around and hold their heads up. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what you can cause a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And so just be honest, just be upfront. Because guess what? Everyone got something going on.
Everybody has something going on.
You know?
And
You
these
watch
people
young.
who
Watch
walk-
what
these
you do. What you
people
doing
who-
with that hot dog, right?
These people who and I'm glad you said that because there are lots of people who walk around acting like they're infallible.
Everyone
And
have something.
you are the bad person over there doing this. But you put a magnifying glass. Sometimes you don't even need a magnifying glass.
What you
just look in
doing?
their
What
direction.
you doing buying the KY for? Yeah. Everyone have something going on.
Everybody.
Okay? Because that's the way it is.
That's just the way it is. You're right.
Okay? And by
Yeah.
the way, you know what's interesting about some people? They have something going on which is not even something to be embarrassed about, but they're freaked out about it. They don't want no one to know.
Like what?
Well, just like say masturbation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. Oh no.
Oh, they don't do
Oh
that.
no. I don't do that. No sir. You sick?
I there are even people walking around who are married, right?
Uh-huh.
And they act like they don't have late intercourse.
Oh no.
They're so pious.
We have 18 children, but no sir.
No,
Immaculate.
Mm-hmm.
You on immaculate road.
Oh no, we don't discuss those things.
Yeah, we don't
Okay.
discuss. So, but the thing is, that,
Fair
like I
enough.
say, there are people walking around with shame on things they shouldn't even be ashamed about.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
because for some reason they got into a mode. So, for instance, you know who's big on that? The
Yes.
church.
Yeah, I know precisely.
Okay. Because
I know
they
where you
said,
were going. Mhm.
because you know I was going there because you see, I'm not judging them.
Yeah.
They judging themselves, but they put themselves in a
Bubble.
bubble
Mm-hmm.
that says, you know, you really can't touch yourself, and if you do, you're gonna burn.
Yeah.
Okay, so they got this whole thing going on in their mind, and they have to then, oh no,
And then
no,
people screw it up
yeah,
way.
yeah, and that's what it creates, you know, psychosis,
Yeah.
because you live in a lie. You know, I
Right.
mean, you know, it's got to be and I don't know how many of us
the
at this
main
point,
offenders.
right? But how many of us can truly say, and I'm sure it's levels, that you're living a life that you feel like you're just being yourself. You know what I'm saying? Completely. Like you don't care what people think. You're not killing people, obviously.
I think
Serial
everybody
killers.
cares what when I hear somebody, I cut you, but when I hear someone say, I'm living my life and I don't care what people think, I go, you're a liar.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's levels, right? I'd say it's levels, right? Because, I mean, you know, there are people who wouldn't say the things we say on the air.
That's true.
You know, they were like,
Or do
you say that? But you crazy?
You say the
So,
N-word.
yeah. So the reality is there's levels,
Yeah.
okay? And life is about a journey. You're only trying to strive
Mm-hmm.
to get to the ultimate. Some people, they had 1. We try to get to like a 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that has to be the absolute truest freedom, because at the end of the day, what can they do?
What can who do?
The other people who you think you need to be judged by.
Yeah.
What can they
Why
really
do?
do?
Why do you
to you?
think that is that we feel that way? Oh my God.
What could they do? Frown upon you? Well, if you're
Exclude
not,
you.
if you're
Exclude
not,
you.
if you're not, let's suppose okay. So you got a family, you got friends, okay? There's what, 7 billion people in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Why the hell do you care? With 6.9 billion care, think about you. They don't know you exist. You don't know what they're thinking.
But you're not in the world. You're in the Bahamas.
Right, so I'm just
more specifically, you're in Nassau.
So out of 300,000 people or 400,000
400,000,
people, would you care what, you know, take your circle. I don't know how many people in your circle. Let's come up with a good number. Let's say 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, you shouldn't care about what the 399,000 care about. Okay? So then you start thinking about, well, out of these 1,000, do I really care that Rogan don't like color shoes I have?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the other thing. It isn't even about the secret stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, but boy, what you think she got no a Capri Pants on for?
Well, why is she driving that car?
Why is she driving that car? You know, she could do better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you? So what's the sanction?
There is no. I guess it's self-imposed sanctions.
There you go.
You know.
So once you what you say what your boy say? You know what I say? I can say.
What?
What your boy say? Bob.
Who's Bob?
You don't know Bob?
Kendrick and all. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Free your mind from mental slavery.
Bob.
Bob, we go in Jamaica.
See, that's what I know what you're talking about, Mike. Robert Neftamali. We gotta take a break.
Okay, free your mind from mental emancipate yourself
slavery.
from mental slavery. You're only enslaving yourself. We'll be back with Stand By Inside. Yes, sir. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, stand by
Andrew,
side.
you come in good with that
That-
one.
yourself.
That's the one of the.
Free your mind.
Is that one of the most classic phrases of all time?
Oh man, that's a line to live by.
Because you know what, you could be enslaved and not be enslaved if you could free your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
can be
That's the
free
way
and
we
be
were, you know.
enslaved.
That's the way we were.
Well,
I contend that we were never
come a
really
little closer.
slaves. I contend that we were never really slaves. You know.
Just unpaid labor.
Well, you know, we were hostages.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
we were
yeah,
kidnapped,
Yeah.
and our minds and our spirits. Any people that could produce the music that we produce
Right.
were never enslaved
Yeah,
mentally.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen some music that was expressed by people who were really broken. Their spirit was broken,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But when you look at Junkanoo, man, that is.
I knew sooner or later it was going to be about 5 seconds
Well,
before
you
the
know,
word
African
before the
music-
word
you know
chunk.
what
No,
he does?
forget about
African
African
music.
music.
Okay,
I know it was
make
only
it
going to
straight.
take. I only.
Make it straight.
I know it was only going
It's
to take
all-
about 5. About 5 seconds. Okay.
Oh, man, you
No,
know.
you're inseparable from the word. I know
Well,
that.
I'm
That's the
talking to
thing.
the greatest Bella in Junkanoo.
The greatest Bella.
He always
Oh,
says
by the
that's
way,
real, though.
did you see this? I got to show you this, man.
Didn't I give you some bells?
I have
with,
bells.
with your initials.
My
on them?
initials, but
Okay.
I have, you know, there was a guy in one of the groups just recently. Say, Fields, I know you like to shake the cowbell. You say, you know, I always keep some in the car. So anytime I see you, you know, we out there, you'll be, you know, we got it for you, you know. But I can show you all this video of me, man. But San, look, when you know you are, you know, you're probably, I guess I have to say this, I have to say it, man. You're probably iconic. Did you ever
that
think?
is the word.
Yeah, you ever thought of yourself
Yeah.
as being iconic?
No.
Well, you are.
Well, you are.
No,
And here's the good thing about not saying no.
Yeah.
If you think yourself to be an icon, you're in problems.
You're going around saying I'm an icon.
Yeah.
You're
There
in
you
problems, okay? But the reality is you are, and if no one has told you that, well, then I'm happy to be the first or one of the first. But the reality is you are iconic. And I've always admired people like yourself because, ironically, when we talk about freeing your mind from this mental slavery, first of all, artists almost intrinsically have crossed that line because they have not allowed themselves to be trapped by the norms. You know, you go outside the norms. When did you first kind of realize, you know what, I'm not going down the traditional road? Because in those days, you know, being an artist was not being in the traditional road.
Yeah. When did I first?
Yeah, when did you first?
When I realized how if you didn't do what you loved, you were gonna have to wake. You know.
Boy,
Once I realized that, then I say, you know what? I want to love my life as long as I can.
That's right.
I'm saying that. I'm
And-
saying that, and you brought her up the other day. I'm saying that lived in my child. She is doing what she loves.
Man, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
A lot of people aren't
That's it.
doing that.
Yeah, she's enjoying her life. You know, I have so many friends in different professions who went into those professions for different reasons. You know, because this profession would allow me to make some money.
Yeah.
This
Status.
Yeah,
all
social
of that,
status.
all of that. And when they look at me throwing paint in a room where I am king,
Yeah.
once I go in there, man, you know, it's me and God, literally,
That's right.
and having a ball. They say, man, you know, I'm making money, but am I doing what I
Right.
love? You know,
How old were you? How old were you when you made that decision, that discovery?
well, that discovery came later, but I always knew that I loved art.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember Reverend Irvin McSweeney.
Yeah, of course. He was a neighbor of mine in
Exactly.
from the
Rock.
Wild Tamarin as well.
Yeah. He had a brother who was deaf, and he couldn't speak. He communicated like that,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
But this guy was a genius with a pencil or a pen. He would create magic on a two-dimensional surface. And I remember the first time I saw magic, he had a stick, and he was drawing in the dirt. And every time he would create something, and I would go like that, and he would rub it out with his leg. And man, Jackson and I,
Yeah.
we were hooked.
Because he lived on the Fort Hill?
Yeah, 2 houses from us. Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing how people who have lost one or two senses, how it's enhanced in another,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
another way.
yeah.
Was
I-
it? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he would have.
It's
They would
expression.
be studying him nowadays,
Okay.
but in those days they thought he was handicapped.
Yeah.
This guy looked into a comic book of a cowboy, the cowboys
Yeah,
with the
Two Guns
holsters.
Kid and thing, yeah.
Then he took the rubber tube with scissors and thread, and he fashioned a gun and holster set.
Yeah.
Took a piece of wood and made a gun, shaped it and carved it into a realistic replica of what he saw. And he just did that, man. Just magic with his
Because
hands.
because he couldn't express verbally. This is how he expressed himself.
This is how he expressed himself. And he had problems, whenever there was a loud sound, he would really have problems,
Was your love of art nurtured by your family? Because a lot of times you hear artists who say, "My parents are telling me go get a regular job or don't take up this hobby." But was that something that they cultivated?
Yeah, my father was, my father. My father was very much an island boy. He grew up on all the islands. His father was a commissioner.
Okay.
So he had he didn't separate people from their character, so he didn't judge people by how much money you have or what position you hold or what have you. So his thing with us was he wanted us to be honest, he wanted us to be sharing people, and he wanted us to do what we loved. And he always wanted us to be fearless,
Yeah.
and stand up for what you believe in.
Well, he came from the era, if I recall, because I would have been a little boy when you guys were growing up around.
You weren't
Fort
even
Hill.
born, man.
Yeah.
You're talking.
But I remember him. But I remember him, and I remember the stories of him. But he grew up in the era of where there was a cause. See, one of the things we're missing now, Stan, and I almost called you Jackson for a second,
Yeah.
because
I get that
y'all
a
were
lot.
inseparable. But that era of your father, the people like the Cleveland Unionists, the Milo Butlers, all of that was in the same kind of era, right? They had a common cause.
Yeah.
I don't know what the cause is now.
I know what the cause is now.
What's that?
I know what the cause
Atari,
is now.
video
Did
game.
you say
No, no,
Atari?
no,
Oh my
because-
God, you went to the 80s.
And you and I might see different ways of getting there. But I think the cause is to find a way to empower the majority of people in this country.
The problem with that is it's and I'm not disagreeing with you. You're absolutely
Okay.
right. That is a
We'll
cause.
find different ways
the
of getting there.
The problem is that when majority rule was the cause, right? There was a singular,
Specific
focused, everyone on the same page.
Yeah, yeah. That hasn't happened yet.
With economic empowerment, everyone got their own route.
And there are other people who feel
It's even-
empowered already,
Yeah.
economically
Yeah, and it's
empowered.
even more than economic empowerment. It's economic justice,
Yeah.
which is even more compelling.
Right.
Because you have people who, I'll be 72 my next birthday. So I've lived a life when, the majority of the people in this country used to be 90-something% of African ancestry. Nowadays, I say we're 85% poor, because they're blacks, whites, Chinese, and everybody who, believe it or not, are in that,
and it's
in
kind of
that
global.
poor range.
Yeah.
But nothing has been done. In fact, the gap has widened
The gap is
between that 15%, that 5%, or whatever it is, who control
The wealth.
of the country, and they're grabbing and reserving more and more of the future away from the majority of people. Now, as an older man, that is what my life is all about, to see young people who will make a stand, because your life will go by so quickly. I tell people that yesterday I was 25, Yesterday I was 25. And if I was 25 and I was saying, like a lot of people say, as soon as I do this thing, I can do what I want to do, right?
Yeah, that
Then
happens a lot.
I would be
So
now.
on.
I would be now starting my body of work,
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I'm at a stage now where I've done exactly what I wanted to do. And I look around and I see so many people who still haven't given themselves permission
Yes.
to.
But this is the uniqueness of artists. You see.
Yeah, be crazy.
No, you're free. You're freer. The only thing that I kind of have a problem with artists is that I think they know they're freer, and somehow that translates into like a superiority thing. It's a weird thing for me because but you know what I'm saying, right?
Maybe they do that because they have. It's almost like a defense mechanism because so many people think of artists as just like wasting their lives and not being focused.
I don't see that at all.
People exert, that inferiority.
It's kind of subconscious, right? But it's like you see people who are more. I think people who are free, the people who are truly free, almost feel like they have a right, and this is just as a kind of an opinion, right? Mm-hmm. That they have a right to feel better than people who are not yet free.
To tell people what to do.
Well, not to tell people what to do, but to seem like, you don't have it together. Yeah. You're not an environmentalist. Yeah. You're not a, it's not just artists. It's like, I'm protecting the earth and you're just kind of like, you're a numbskull.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but.
You just wake up with the man.
However, when you see something clearly, right? When you see something clearly and you look around, you could see what you're looking at. And you could say, man, everybody is convinced that this thing is blue.
Yeah.
And I could see that it's green.
Yeah.
And should I stand back because I don't, people might think I'm pretending like I'm better than they are.
Or that you're nuts.
No, but I love them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell them it's green.
That's a very good
point.
Rogan Smith and I had a discussion over lunch a couple of weeks ago about seeing things clearly. Mm-hmm. And if you feel, granted, everyone can feel that way, but if you feel committed to what you are seeing and the path that you think you should take to deal with that thing that you're committed to, then you feel to do because you're seeing clearly.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. You have clarity on the issue. You're not confused. You're not reserved about it. You're not you don't hold back. You've never held back.
No.
And that's how you did that thing called sideburns.
Yeah, and that's how I am no longer doing that thing called sideburns.
You see how I segued
Can
You set me up well.
And I want you to get to that, right? But I have to make a little presentation. It's not from me, right? It's from, because one of the words he used at the beginning was iconic.
Yeah.
And there's an artist by the name of Rashad Cash who has a gift for you, and he wants me to present that to you.
Rashad Cash.
I have it, yes.
Is he the... Cash's?
No. He's an illustrator. He illustrates books and he does some design work. And he wanted me to give this to you because he said to tell you this, that he started reading the newspaper. He was not big on reading the newspaper, but he did so because of sideburns.
Wow.
You caused him to read, and that extended into him reading the newspaper was because of your cartoon that he started reading. And he's been a huge fan of yours for the very longest. And he wanted me to give this to you, and I want you to look at that.
Rogan, you.
Oh, let Edward see it.
That's the guy who was here?
Yes.
He
did for Sierra Blair, and
he gave me a thing too.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's take this off.
And
now.
he did it in the style of sideburns.
That's sideburns too, eh?
Oh man.
See, so no one ever draw you.
Man, I am so flattered. Tell him I am so flattered.
And it really looks like your style.
It definitely is my style.
What they say? Imitation is the best form of flattery.
Oh man, listen here. This guy.
Take this off. Let's take this off.
That's only a little piece.
That's the tape from the boat.
Yeah,
man.
How old is he?
30.
Wow.
30.
He's still a baby to you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
He came. He did the illustration with your with the little girl, right? Was that the guy who did the picture of me?
With Cassidy Capron.
Yeah.
Yes, and then Sierra Blair.
Yeah, he brought a thing for me too.
Obviously, he draws well, and
Yeah, well, that's cool, Stan. See, there
so
was value. There was value. There was value of you coming here.
The way he put it together.
There's a value in you coming here after all. Good thing you got permission from the wife.
Got something to, she knows where I am.
Yeah. So I called Stan. I said, can you come? Well, let me clear that with the wife. I'll get back to you in an hour.
What's the saying Jackson had again?
I forget, but
Don't be no.
that's right. Don't be no ass. we could say we get to see we're free.
Oh yeah.
So we could say that.
So you can say ass.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
You can say shit.
No, you can't. Now you can be inside, but you got to come back tomorrow to draw something about how we get you off the air.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
No, we leave it at ass. Okay.
You thought he was free.
Boy, now that's a classic. That's a classic moment right there. Can we say? Yeah. All right. Roganna said it before, though. Don't worry about it.
Rashad Cash.
Tell Rashad I will hang this proudly
Oh.
on my wall.
Yeah. See. You see, the day
so-
after you
I'm so
resign,
Of
retire,
course.
whatever it is,
I'm getting
you
gifts.
get gifts. Okay.
Listen here, man.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm so
That's
proud
probably
of
one
you.
of the best things you've gotten, eh? I can say that. Other than the wife, I ain't gonna deal with the wife. But that's the number
In
4
my lifetime?
in your lifetime. That how that rank before after your children.
How that
You know that
rank?
commercial? You know that commercial with the guy where he said this is one of the best things in my life, and then the wife and the child, and then he goes, no, this is the 4th best.
This
Yeah.
is one of the best.
That's one of the best. Well, that's
I
what
will
you
tell
can ask
you,
for.
this moves me and touches me to my heart, and I really, really appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad you.
Absolutely.
I'm glad it
I'm glad
happened.
it happened on your show.
I'm glad it
There
happened
you
here
go.
because we're Stan and I like, but Stan,
are brother,
we're brothers, man.
Yeah,
We're brothers.
You
You
give me
know.
trouble, but I gotta, whip him in line
There
every
you
now
go.
and then.
We're
you know?
happy to have you do
Yeah,
it, too.
I pull rank on him. You know?
Yeah. But again,
right.
going into this thing about,
Yeah.
when you do something that is as institutional as sideburns,
Boy, and it is.
because first of all, you don't. We're gonna take a break. We'll take a break. We'll be back with sideburns, Burnside.
Yeah.
Stan Burnside. We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with Stan Burnside, Sideburns, who just retired after how many years, Stan?
40.
40 years.
40.
Well, that's always a good round number.
Oh yeah.
But so I was about to say that, did you grow into fearlessness? And you said your father always pushed it, but I imagine that when you first put that pen to paper for the first cartoon, and we lived in an era. Let's face it, we lived in an era. You started when in what? 19 what?
I started actually in 1970, the latter part of 77,
Right.
in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
I was doing a cartoon for a bi-weekly newspaper.
Oh, okay. But when did you start doing sideburns here?
79.
79.
Yeah.
So 79, we would have still been in what I would call the piddling years.
Yeah, definitely.
And in those years, the political kind of environment was a little more tense.
Yeah.
I think.
However, Eddie Minnis created
Eddie Minnis.
Yes.
an
What
environment.
was the thing? What is Eddie Minnis? Potluck.
Potluck, yeah.
Yeah.
He created an environment where the politicians gave
Him license.
cartoonists room to really make some really serious
You know what's so
comment.
funny? I just realized when you told me about Eddie Minnis, it's almost like you all morphed. Like it morphed. You know what I mean? Like there was no gap.
Yeah. Well,
Because Eddie gave it up,
yeah.
and then you took over, and it was like kind of like seamless.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously different characters, right? But it was like a seamless, move from one right into the next. And this is a compliment to you. Eddie was great,
Yeah.
and when you moved into it, the greatness did not diminish.
Right.
Oh, well, thank
You understand what I'm saying?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we go like,
Oh, Lord. He ain't Eddie. Yeah.
you ain't gonna make it.
Yeah.
You know how we go.
It was a different time.
You know how we
and,
go as Bahamians.
Yeah.
This ain't up to
Yeah.
We all need to bring Eddie back, man.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
No. Eddie.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Yeah, we got a serious audience,
What's you and Eddie's relationship?
Very good. Eddie is a very good friend and someone that I've known all my life and whose work I respect. When I was chairman of the National Art Gallery, I was the one who went to Amanda Coulson to arrange a one-man show of his work.
Right.
And he decided he wanted to share the stage with his family, with his daughters and son-in-law.
There's some talented folks.
But
boy.
yeah, man. Eddie is. I love his music.
That's something when you get a guy. But all of y'all are like that.
Yeah.
Well
See, no, but all of them are like that. When you look at Eddie Minnis, music, art, the potluck, right? Stan Burnside, John Canoe, art.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not one dimensional.
No, not at all.
Jackson, architect.
Yeah.
John Canoe, the painting.
Yeah. Jackson had a joke one time. One fellow was, I guess, envious or jealous of Jackson. And talking about he got all these different things. So the fellow went up to Jackson and say, "See, man, Jackson, you got to understand, these fellas jealous of you because they only got one fame. See, you got more than one fame. One fame, man,
And some people ain't got no fame. And some people ain't got no fame.
No fame.
Boy, look here. My man Jackson, one of the probably, I don't get asked to do things a lot that I feel like makes me feel special, right? And I'll tell you, man, when I was asked to speak at Jackson's funeral, that really made me feel special. Because it's just so many people who he would have come in contact with in his life. And to be asked to be a part of that was just,
Well, we feel a relationship with you that I think goes way back. We called the area where we grew up the Rock, Fort Finn Castle. And
don't break your picture.
All of those relationships, have remained over the years. We just lost Bob Thompson, who was a giant in the media.
Bob?
No.
Yeah, he helped. Was at ZNS. They lived on the Fort Hill there, on the East Street.
Who helped to build ZNS. Now, he is an icon. Wouldn't you call him?
Yeah,
another icon.
Yeah. He. So
this is the other thing too, though, and I hope we're getting there. That you would know, you would feel it. I suppose we can take a break, but you would feel it. And I'm going to ask you the question before we go on break.
No break?
Not a break. I thought I heard something in the background. Are the people who are significantly contributing to the cultural wealth of this country being recognized as such?
What you're asking is whether
I'm not talking financially. I mean, I'm talking about. I mean, do people?
Just in terms of.
People recognize.
Celebrating the.
The
achievement that.
Held in high esteem.
Take for granted. I think we take a lot for granted.
Yeah.
But I think there's still time. I think a lot of the work that some of these cultural figures have done. I mean, they're still around.
Yeah.
Rosemary Hanna in her Over the Hill book and her Over the Hill video, I think did a lot to celebrate the old families. And I think more and more people will do that. But I don't know. I think the glass is more half full than half empty. Because I think people like Rogan and her generation will help to make the difference,
I mean, I still feel like, one of the things we're trying to get done is downtown when the central bank moves is to get the central bank turned into a museum of Bahamian history, right?
Great idea.
Because we don't have a place to go and see that. Do you understand what I'm saying? When you go to, what are you saying? What do you mean, Roget? What happened?
No, I was laughing because some of our listeners were texting me because they heard of me. So they said, you got these people, got him going off course with the S word.
I got him going off course.
He
set me up.
I set him up. He was ready to say that a long time. Just like how he said John Canoe. Now you revert to true John Canoe form. I set him up.
Man, he set me up. Bahamas.
But no, we Stan, think about this now. We know we feel our culture, right? But it's one thing to feel it, but to be able to go to something and look and see it.
Yeah, I agree.
And we haven't gotten to that point yet, And that's why I think, only now that you have gone, that we really appreciate it. Before it was just like you pick up the paper, let me see what inside burns. So you expect to see sideburns. Okay, and you laugh at it. And by the way, anyone who was in it, I don't think I ever made sideburns, but anyone who was in it felt honored.
Yes,
right,
that was a privilege to
and
make
that's where you got the
sideburns.
political license, because even if you were like critical, they're on their wall.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They framed that.
But so now that it's gone, It's now, oh boy,
That's a hell of a void.
boy, oh
That's a hell of a-
man, hold on a second.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I hope to God that you will continue this in another. I don't know if that's what you thought I was going to
In
say.
a different form,
In
yeah.
a different capacity. I hope to God that Sideburns has not just ended because you're no longer with the Nassau Guardian. I hope you're giving some thought to that because I think it's really
You
needed.
can do something without having to have the deadlines.
Well, let's put it this way.
You have copies of all your.
Yes, I have to clear my throat on that one. Sideburns isn't the only thing that I've been doing all these years.
No.
You know,
I know.
and
Yeah.
what I've been attempting to do is to spend more and more time in my studio. And when I get in there, you do a lot of shifting because you have a lot of different responsibilities. So you go to this job and then you shift to go to
Yeah.
that job.
Yeah.
You too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. And what I love right now
Because you're focused.
is that I don't have to come out of the studio. You know, my wife can push some food under under the
Like a
door.
prisoner.
You know what I mean? You mean?
Don't come out of here until you finish.
man. you know. Yeah, you know, Denny. Yeah. So
She makes
you
a
know,
cake,
this
though.
is
Yes,
a
she
window. This is a window of opportunity for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, well,
and
that's-
so I'm not thinking of Sideburns right now. I'm
Okay.
thinking that God has given me this window to continue to
Understood.
follow my dream and follow my purpose, you know?
See,
Understood.
and the wonderful thing, and not many of us get to do it, and I yearn for it on a daily basis, is when you've worked hard, and you've worked hard, I think I work hard, and you say, okay, now at some point, I don't want to work this hard, okay? But I want to do what I love to do.
I've never worked.
Well, see, that's
There
the
you
thing.
go, see?
You've always loved it, done what
Yeah,
you've done.
yeah,
But you know what I'm
Your
saying.
passion.
But the shifting. That's what I'm referring to. Maybe I'm not referring to it right. The shifting, right? When you can say, okay, I can release myself from all of
Yeah,
these other
yeah.
things
Yeah.
and focus on something I really would just
Yeah.
absorb myself into. Like one of the things I've always wanted to do, and in fact, I was at a function the other day, and someone said, have you ever thought about doing stand-up? And I've always wanted to do stand-up.
You're natural.
You're scared.
Okay.
You're natural.
I'm probably scared, but also I haven't had the. You know what? I don't. You know what the true stand-up does? Every move they make, they're writing notes. They keep a log of what
Yeah,
they
yeah,
see and
yeah,
observe.
yeah.
I just haven't done it. And I started literally 2 weeks ago on my phone, putting down things
Yeah.
that I think are funny
Yeah,
observations.
yeah.
You
Do
know?
you realize, and I have to say this, that you do stand up on the show twice a week,
Oh.
and you've been doing it for so many years? Do you know how many people listen to your show from when you were on with Kirk
You're a
and
natural,
Eric?
man.
You're
Yeah.
a natural, and they love you, and they think you're incredibly funny. So you've been doing it.
been
So you
doing
might
it.
as well just get up
Just
on the stage and do it.
But you see, the thing is, what I'm doing is ad lib, right? And I don't want to take away from this. We dealing with the
No, man,
icon.
no, man.
We dealing with the icon.
Listen to
Okay.
you now. You and I gonna do it.
No. So I'm just saying, it takes organization. It's not. We've been able to do this because. And by the way, all of any success that I've had, Stan, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah.
There is a thing about collaboration. One of the things about your work is when you and John and Jackson did that. What is it?
And
Jackson,
Antonius and
Beetle.
Brent, yeah.
But when you did that,
Excuse me.
Burnside, Beetle, Burnside.
Yeah.
That collaboration, right?
That's right. You were with us in
in
Atlanta.
in Atlanta during
Yeah,
the Olympics
yeah.
when they tried to bomb me.
Yeah.
In fact, it's y'all who saved me because
That's right.
we were at that stadium, and only because we left to come to your
That's right.
exhibition
That's
where there was
right.
Sidney Point. Listen to this now, Sidney Poitier, Bobbles. You know what Bobbles is?
Who's Bubbles?
How many bubbles in a bar of soap? John Lewis. John Lewis. Remember John Lewis
Yeah,
from
man,
was there?
Congressman John Lewis.
John
I know
Lewis.
him, but I don't
Yeah,
know
you know when he
Bubbles.
say, tell us how many marbles in the bottle. Tell us how much out here to get the vote. The fella said, if you want vote, tell us how many bubbles in a bar of soap. Okay.
Yeah. John
But-
Lewis was a
Yeah.
Hero.
civil rights
So
hero.
so
him.
these
I never heard that
things,
reference,
man. It's just been So I was going to say about collaboration. So your success in life, any kind of success I've done, is always based on the people around you.
Oh yeah.
And I can tell you that what I do here, Rogan Smith is here, Eric D. and Kirk Smith were here when I was there. It's not a solo thing.
Yeah.
So it's a different realm when you're collaborating than when you go and stand up on your own.
Yeah.
It's a completely different thing, huh?
But you
It's
gotta do it.
I
different.
know I gotta do it.
It's different, but no, don't let them off the hook on this.
You gotta do it
But
still.
when you're doing the collaboration, you literally, even though you're collaborating, you have that voice that you can easily transfer
Yeah.
Like, I can transfer that painting expression
Right.
into that singular painting studio.
Right.
So the same way, I agree.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that you've always had a comedic mind.
Yeah.
The one thing I remember about you make a joke about everything,
Right?
man. You know what I
Right?
mean? You talk a world of that word, you know? And, you know.
Yeah, that word. You know what he's referring to? Right?
Yeah.
That word now. It's that
Oh,
word.
that word.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay,
It's a new
okay.
saying.
Yeah.
But listen,
Yeah,
man.
but I mean, you're a natural man.
But
You're a
listen,
natural.
I won't get back to you, man.
Yeah.
So now, I guess the question is answered because Rogan put it to you. We're going to see now Stan Burnside, not a Sideburns anymore,
Right.
but now another. I don't think the word is evolution, because it's
No.
always been there.
It's always
Just
been
a
there.
new
Yeah.
a new focus on a different dimension.
It's I guess there's going to be more of it.
Okay.
You know,
It's
it's
just
a-
more expression, eh?
Yeah, it's more focus by me in that space.
Yeah.
But how it comes out of the space is probably the way it's always been coming out. You know.
Because listen, I don't know. I go to a lot of things where there's art involved,
Yeah.
and the stuff you put out, man.
Mhm.
I don't know if people even know about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's some, I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah.
See, a couple of moments ago, I was telling people how I confess that I smoke 18,000 pounds of weed, and they only down to 10,000.
Yeah.
I don't know where your stuff coming from.
Well,
man.
well, let me tell you this. I grew up in the '60s.
Okay, that's what.
However, I got to a point where, and this amazing thing, because I talk to the kids, the same kids who smoke and who come around you and think you can't tell they smoking and all the rest of it. You know, they pretend that, you know, they're looking at you with all kind of clouds in their brain, and they're pretending like you know they're straight. You know, and you're talking to them, and so I tell them that I've trained my mind to go there without any artificial stuff, you know.
Exactly.
And my youngest son, when I told him that for the first time, he said, "Dad, that means you're only crazy. That only means you're crazy." You know. I say it's true. But the ability of an artist to get to the next level is something that's very important. And some artists need the drugs to get to that level.
Everyone has a thing, right?
Everybody has a thing.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm gifted in that I can.
Interesting about your son, and he maybe doesn't realize how wise he is in saying that. About that means you're crazy.
Yeah.
You know, to do something.
He's a very smart guy.
To do something, Stan, that is outside the norm bubble means that you're willing to actually, again, this is fearlessness, be called crazy.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Sanity is boring.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, sanity is non-creative.
You're being conformist, right?
Yeah.
You're not being creative. You're not being, if that's what sanity is defined as.
Yeah.
If being conformist is being sane, it's boring.
Yeah.
As opposed to being creative. Because, you know, I remember going to a museum in Washington, D.C., and I was standing there and looking at this. It was a crate. You know them old soda crate?
Yeah.
And the guy had like 6 lines of school bells in the box.
Right.
And I standing there and I look at this, right? And I'm trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And there was this black security guard who was at the door.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this. And he gave me a look. And the look was like, you know that first, right? You know we ain't supposed to understand that, right? He didn't say nothing to me, mind you, right?
Yeah.
Okay? You could feel it. He said, no, you don't fool with that, man. Go look up at Seascape. Or something like that. Okay? And by the way, just again, and Stan, man, I think you should come back, because let me tell you this. Amos Ferguson.
Yeah.
I think I told you the story. I saw it on a documentary, and he mentioned where he was selling his photos by Stanley Toogood.
Yeah.
Well, next to Stanley Toogood was my friend Mario's house.
Okay.
And Mario had a souvenir shop. And Amos brought these paintings to Mario to sell.
Yeah.
For $10 each.
Yeah. Mario said no.
And there was about 150.
Yeah.
And we were looking at him like, this guy got to be crazy.
Yeah. Nobody won those paintings. Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah.
And I think it was either you or Jackson or someone who described how you could think you could do it.
Yeah.
Try to do that same thing.
Oh yeah.
1,000 times.
Yeah.
Flawless technician.
So what we see as crazy, what the norm sees as crazy, is genius.
Yeah. Well, I always, and I might have told you this before, my kids grew up in a house where, my wife bakes cakes. And their dad drew funny pictures and threw paint for a living. And so we home all the time, and we've never really had a 9 to 5.
Right.
So, it gives them a distorted sense
Like, where y'all is work?
of how to make a living. Where y'all is work. Where y'all is work, And, I guess in Eddie's house, it's similar, it's just a different kind of...
Before you came on, we were talking, it's kind of ironic, actually. We were talking about levels of freedom and how we judge ourselves by what others think, and that itself is enslaving.
Yeah.
And so essentially what your kids saw were two people who were not enslaved.
Yeah, man. Completely free. Having fun.
So other than your well, see me at 7:00, but I want to get this in. First of all, can you please come back?
Sure, man.
I mean, next week. Are you serious? We will call. I'll talk to you.
Talk to Denny.
You have to call. I know you have to.
Denny.
I know you have to. See, and a good man at a certain age, again, and please do not go further than what I'm about to say, as Jackson would say in the last. Is a good man at a certain point don't even care no more that he have to ask permission. Okay? You happy to say it. Okay?
Yeah, man.
But after you ask your permission, we'll see what we can do.
I can let you talk to her.
Just one final thing from one of our listeners who said to tell you that congratulations on successfully meeting retirement in good health, and you're very blessed, and you should be very honored.
Yeah.
The people who are listening and they love you.
Tell them thanks so much. Tell them they should be in here where there's nothing but love.
That's right.
Nothing
You
I
better
want
believe
to
it.
ask you one last question, even though we're going to go a minute or two over. Tell me how it feels to know that when you leave this earth, the level of appreciation that people will have for you is just abounds. How does that feel? Because you must know it.
Wow. No, well, you hope that you've made a positive contribution in the lives of some people. And I mean, that's all you can do.
You see that photo, that
hey
picture.
Man, this fella.
That's what that means.
Yeah.
That people feel that way.
That's right.
Yeah.
I had something happen to me today that I'm not going to say on the air because it's self-serving. I'm going to tell Rogan afterwards. But I know how that must have felt to you to see that this young man was so influenced by you.
Yeah.
And he's only the peak of the iceberg.
Well,
That's what I'll leave it with. I love you, my brother. We'll talk some more.
Yeah.
well, the feeling is mutual. Thanks so much for having me, Ed and Rogan.
Keep the cowbells in the truck.
Yeah. And that's Eric.
No, it's Ken.
Kendrick.
Yeah,
Kendrick.
Eric is another era. We excuse you because you're old. Just forget.
No, I know Eric, dude. Yeah. Well, that's Kendrick.
Yeah.
The
No
great,
problem.
All right.
the great Kendrick.
And thank you, Denny.
Yes.
For allowing. All right,
Thank you,
man.
Michelle.
All right, we'll see you later. Take care. Have a good weekend, everyone.